Okay, so number 11 is The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, the book, which I haven't read. Haha. Like, I haven't read many books. I've read quite a bit, but I mostly just go on YouTube and just listen to highlights and shit. So essentially this book, again, I haven't read it, so don't quote me. It's like your parents... Okay, so the goal in life, you know, you maybe have like existential crisis right now. I think that's a very common thing. But I guess, you know, a way of seeing it is like our biological purpose is to survive and procreate. Like everything we do is to survive and procreate. If we really think about it, the reason we're here, the reason I'm here is to survive and procreate. And it's really hard to go against that. So don't even try. Or you can try, but like, it's just what we're meant to do in a biological perspective, is to survive and procreate. And because of that, you know, we'll do anything. It's crazy. So we'll do anything for sex, and we'll do anything to make babies, and we do everything to survive. Like we want to avoid danger and fear and all that stuff, and we want to just have the best mating strategies. So and you know, social conditioning, marketing, business, again, it's, you can say it like an evil perspective, but they really understand this, and they take advantage of this primal need as a human being, and they make money. But I'll talk about that later. So a great example would be your parents. So a classical Asian stereotype, subtle Asian trait, is you know, your parents want you to be a doctor, and like for example, your parents have 50% of your genetics, so they want you to survive. They want their DNA to keep going onwards. So, you know, a doctor, for example, is a stable job. It's someone of high society. You know, and it goes back to tribes, where it's like you want to be high society so you can live longer and you get the best pick in mates so you can survive and procreate. So that's kind of bad. And you know, a lot of people, like Indian parents, they want you to have arranged marriage and they think that's the best for you. Like, you know, so I guess it's trying to say that, I'm not trying to say parents are evil and stuff. I'm just saying they just want you to survive and procreate. Like, they genuinely care about you and stuff, but you gotta really think about the fact that like nobody knows you except you. And what they're saying is just what they kind of want in themselves. You know, like, have you seen parents where they're like, son, I want you to be a doctor? Maybe that deep down is because they didn't get the chance to be a doctor. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to hate on it. It's just like because they have part of your genetics. That's all. And the point is, you can't please your parents. You have to just be yourself and do what you want to do. Because here's a good example. Say you do follow your parents and you become a doctor. And some people love it and stuff, but say if you really hated becoming a doctor. Here's a good example, right? I was working in a store, in a clothing store, and there was this Asian parent, and I was trying to help her out. And then she said, and then, you know, I started small talking to her, and then she said something like, oh yeah, I'm buying this for my son. I'm like, oh yeah, how old's your son? Oh yeah, my son's 18, he just finished his HSC. I'm like, oh, that's so cool, what uni does he go to, blah, blah, blah. And eventually her son, like, used to go to one of the best high school, like the top ranking high school, and he got like one of the highest ATAR possible. And even then, the Asian parent was like, not good enough. And I'm just like, what the fuck? You know, like, what is that doing to your kid? What is that teaching your kid? And like, back on my point where I'm like, education isn't really life. It's not, it doesn't, because in the end, your parents just want you to be happy, but they don't really see how it doesn't really make you happy. And I'll talk about this more. And I'm not trying to hate on parents. Like, I understand their perspective. But anyways, this guy, right, he wanted to be a teacher, or he was interested in teaching. And then his parents like, you got such high grades, why do you want to be a teacher? I want you to be a lawyer. And maybe it's because the parents' friends are a lawyer and she just wants to brag with the friends. But she doesn't really care about that son, you know? She's not really looking for his best interest. Like, the parents are, but I'm just like, you know, think about the doctor analogy, where like the parents put the kid becoming a doctor and forces the kid. The kid's gonna hate the parent, number one. Number two is like, to be a doctor, 7 years of your life. You're just probably at home studying all day, so you miss out on like dating, which is very important. You miss out on like money management. You miss out on your health. Like, you probably become fat because you just sit there all the time, and sitting is really bad for humans. You know, and you spend that 7 years doing something you really hate, and then you become a doctor. And even when you become a doctor, you're actually like in debt, you know what I'm saying? Because of university. And that's assuming that you become one and you do the placement and everything went well. You're finally a doctor, and you just probably hate your job because you're not really interested in it. And then you look at your parents like, parents, I made you proud. And then your parents are like, honestly, they're probably gonna say some shit like, son, or daughter, why aren't you at home for dinner? So again, you're pleasing the parents, and you're like, well, how could I be at home at dinner when I have a full-time job as a doctor? Because doctor's really hard. I think it's like 6 days a week, and you have to be on call on a Sunday. So like, of course your time is all gone, and then your parents will be like, oh, how come you're not home for dinner? And then it's like, well, I can't. You told me to do this, and it's like, no, I want you to be home, and then you feel cheated. You're like, fuck, why did I listen to my parents? I just wasted 7 years. So I guess the lesson is just understand that your parents are looking out for the best of you, but you really have to think for yourself, and you have to do what makes you happy, and that's a really big point I'll talk about later on. So that's a good example. The Selfish Gene, great book. Again, takeaway point, we're just here to survive and procreate. I don't think like that's just a biological purpose. If you really think deep, like what are you doing? What's the reason behind everything? It's probably because to survive and procreate.